All right, we're going to do the study guide today for your quiz 16. And I had to shrink this down for those of you looking at the wall because I need a bunch of room to do these first two problems. It'd be a lot easier to see on your video. All right, problem number 1. What is the quadratic polynomial function in standard form with zeros? And they give you the zeros, -3, -4, 1, and 3. Okay? So we talked about this the other day. If a 0 is a -3, it comes from x plus 3, doesn't it? And if a 0 is -4, it comes from x plus 4. The 1 comes from an x minus 1, and the 3 comes from an x minus 3. Now, what I would recommend that you do when you see, you've got 4 binomials here, but there's a shortcut. If you take the x plus 3 and the x minus 3, and you pair those together, all right, x plus 3 times x minus 3. That's a perfect square, or it will produce a perfect square. And the perfect square that it produces is x squared minus 9. So we multiplied the x plus 3 times the x minus 3, and we got x squared minus 9. So now we got to multiply the x squared minus 9 times x plus 4 times x minus 1. Well, x plus 4 times x minus 1 is the factored form for x squared plus 3x minus 4. Because when you're factoring, the positive 4 minus 1 equals the positive 3, and the positive 4 times the negative 1 equals the negative 4. So we've used these two factors. So now what we have to do is multiply this binomial times this trinomial. So we've got x squared minus 9 times x squared plus 3x minus 4. So x squared times x squared is x to the 4th. X squared times 3x is positive 12x to the 3rd. And x squared times negative 4 is negative 4x squared. Then we have to take the negative 9 and multiply it by everything in the right side. So negative 9 times x squared is negative 9x squared. Negative 9 times 3x would be negative 27x. And negative 9 times negative 4 would be positive 36. So x to the 4th comes down. We get a positive 12x to the 3rd. The negative 4x squared minus 9x squared is negative 13x squared. And then these last two terms will just fall down. So minus 27x plus 36. So there's your polynomial function in standard form with these zeros. In problem number 2, same directions, different zeros. Now watch, just like I said earlier, we've got zeros of 5 and -5. So I'm going to partner those together first. So I'm going to take an x plus 5 times an x minus 5. And then we're going to multiply that by x minus 2. So the x plus 5 times x minus 5. Those are factors of a perfect square, so we get x squared minus 25. So we've done this. Now we have to multiply the x squared minus 25 times x minus 2. So the x squared times x is x to the third. X squared times -2 is -2x squared. -25 times x is -25x. And -25 times -2 is +50. And there's your function in standard form from these zeros. All right, problem number 3. Write the polynomial in factored form. Each term in this polynomial has an x as a factor. So we're going to factor out an x. Then to determine what goes in the parentheses, we divide the x back into each term. So x into x to the third goes x squared. X into 9x squared goes positive 9x times. And x into 18x goes positive 18 times. Bring this x over first. All right, and then we're looking for factors of 18 that add to 9. Be 6 and 3, right? And everything's positive, so our factors are positive. So we go x plus 6 times x plus 3. In problem number 4, each term in this trinomial has a 4x in it. So we're going to factor out a 4x. Then we're going to divide 4x into 4x to the third. And that goes x squared times 4x into positive 8x goes 4x into positive 8x squared goes positive 2x times. And 4x into negative 96x, that goes 24 times. So bring the 4x over first. We're looking for factors of 24 that can combine to 2. And I'm thinking 6 and 4. And since the 2 is positive, the larger factor needs to be positive. So x plus 6 times x minus 4. And if you're not sure if those are the factors, just multiply all of this. And when you multiply 4x times x plus 6 times x minus 4, you should get this. If you don't, then your factors are wrong or your signs are wrong, and you can adjust. And then remultiply to make sure that you get the original polynomial. And then problems 5 and 6. What are the zeros of the function? Well, we've got an x that's a factor, so we've got an x that's equal to 0. We've got an x minus 2 that's equal to 0, and the x plus 5 that's equal to 0. So one of our zeros is positive 2. Another 0 is negative 5. So our zeros of the function are 0, 2, and negative 5. For problem number 6, we've got x plus 3 that's equal to 0, x minus 3 that's equal to 0, and an x minus 4 equal to 0. So one of our zeros is going to be negative 3. Another 0 is going to be positive 3. And the third 0 is positive 4. So our zeros of this function are negative 3, 3, and 4. And that completes your study guide for your quiz tomorrow. Please use the rest of the period to get your electronic assignments completed and submitted, and then work in the ALEKS app.